Welcome. Good morning. My name is Sam Davidson. I'm the CEO here at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. Anybody your first time in the building? Yes. Fantastic. Welcome. Anybody here who is an entrepreneur? Yes. Welcome home. Thank you all. We aim to be the home for Nashville's entrepreneurs. We've been doing that for about 13 years, 10 of those in this building, and we exist to help make Nashville the best place to start and grow a business by increasing the likelihood of success for entrepreneurs. You're going to get to see some of that in action today as we talk about what can help increase my success as an entrepreneur, if that's where you're seated today. We're going to have a great chat. The design of these events, they happen on the first Thursday of every month, but it's to eat some cereal. If you come hungry and maybe you haven't had this much sugar in a long time, you're welcome. But we aim to do that and just talk about entrepreneurship through the viewpoint, through the lens, but through the experience of somebody who's done it more than once. We talk a lot about odds of success and what is it that increases your odds of success as an entrepreneur. Your odds in starting a business are about 50-50, that after 5 years you will still be in business. We see that stat. We don't like that stat. We want to increase that. There's a lot of things that have to go right and have to happen for you to beat that stat, to do better than that. One of those could be funding. So through our partnership with Launch Tennessee, check out InvestTN. So these are capital resources that are available to startups that are based in Tennessee. And so you can apply using this QR code or visit investtn.org. And so they are investing in companies. And so it's as if you are pitching to a venture investor. And so it's a full round of diligence. It's a lot of feedback. If you need help with that application, our staff is able to do that as well. But we know that capital is very important to those businesses. Here's what we do this series. Here's your chances at success, based on the number of times you do it. So most people who start only one business, there's about a 10% chance that you're going to succeed over the long term. But the more times you do it, the more successful you are. So if you come into EC today and you say, hey, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, I can say, great, go fail 6 times. And then by the 7th, we'll start to get better than a coin flip's chance. I could tell you to do that, and you could go for that. Or we could hear of people who have done it multiple times. So maybe instead of you making 7 or 8 mistakes, you can just listen to Arnie's today, in that case, so you don't have to make them. So let me welcome Arnie Malham. Come over and join us now, my friend. Yes, round of applause. It's a mic for you, too. Arnie's somebody that I've gotten to know in this role, but somebody that we sort of knew of each other before I came into this role with some of his previous companies, which we're going to hear about. But I'm going to ask Arnie a couple questions, hear about his journey through entrepreneurship as an entrepreneur, but we're going to leave time for you all to ask questions as well. So be thinking of those. But Arnie, welcome. We are recording this as well, so live to the world. We'll always recap these, put them on our YouTube channel, put some clips and share those of all the wisdom you're going to share. But introduce yourself, tell folks what you do, but then the first questions I always like to ask folks after you do that. Who's the first entrepreneur that you ever knew or remember meeting or knowing? And what is the first entrepreneurial thing that you ever did? But yeah, go for it.
It's a lot to roll with. What do I do now? I'm Arnie Malham. In 1994, I got fired from my job, and I started a small advertising agency. That's what got me into entrepreneurship. Now, I had been running a small advertising agency on the side, which is what got me fired in the first place. But it was high time it had to go full time because I was unemployable at that time, and that was my only option. So we started a small advertising agency, and we had a couple of clients who happened to be personal injury lawyers. I know, very exciting stuff. And we got really good at helping injury lawyers build brand, become likable in a market, and most importantly, we taught them how to grow their business over time. And because the last thing we wanted to hear was, stop our advertising, it's too much business. And so we got that early, and we realized for us to be successful, they have to be successful. And so we grew that over a short 20 years into the largest ad agency exclusively serving personal injury lawyers in the country. We had one in every market: Nashville, Memphis, Philadelphia, Austin, on and on and on. You name the market, I'll tell you the number one marketing lawyer, and we represented them. That was our thing. After about 10 years, we realized the other stumbling block they had is they had trouble answering their own phones. And so we opened a call center exclusively to answer the phones for personal injury lawyers. And we started growing that business. At the pinnacle of each business, CJ Advertising had 50 personal injury lawyers across the country, and the call center had 300 personal injury lawyers across the country. The next thing we had to get over was how do we get great talent, and the key was, that's something that took me about 10 years of the 20 years to learn, was it came down to how we treated that talent. For the first 10 years, I did a very poor job, and for the next 10 years, I tried to get better and better. And so that's my brief history of sort of that set of time. In 2017 and 18, we sold both companies to two different buyers, and it allowed me what I'll call financial freedom, and I've been essentially retired since then, working on some pet project business, doing some consulting, doing some speaking, hanging out, enjoying some time.
So, and it's true, if you go to Arnie's LinkedIn, the job he's talking about, he got fired from, most people, whatever your job is, like account executive. His says account executive, fired, 1994. It's as if it's the job title or part of it. So that's a sort of a badge of honor. We're gonna get to that in a second. So, first entrepreneur you ever knew?
So I'd be amiss by not mentioning my father, I grew up in a very small town in Arkansas. He had a lumber store, which I grew up stacking lumber and mixing paint and sorting nails. And he, of course, was the first entrepreneur I knew. Now, entrepreneur in a small town where you're serving a small population, that's a different kind of business. There are so many types of entrepreneurs. And I learned so much from my father during that time, mostly that you can stay out as late as you want on Friday night, but at 6 a.m. you're going to be at the lumber yard, so it kind of curbed my activities. But when I moved to Nashville, my fraternity little brother's father was a gentleman named Jerry McCoyne. And Jerry McCoyne, when he was at the University of Tennessee, started the Athlon Sports magazine. If any of you are sports fans, this was I think it's come down a little bit since the dawn of digital, but Athlon Sports was as interesting a sports magazine as there was. He put a different cover on every magazine. So in Tennessee, the UT and Vanderbilt were on the cover, but in Alabama, Auburn and Alabama were on the cover, and they did great. And so getting to know him and how he started the business and how he went from concept to this actual thing that was renowned by most sports fans was an amazing thing to me and really caught my attention.
And was there something that you saw that made you think, one day I'm going to do something like this?
I don't know that it registered in the, when you first move to town, there's so much going in through your head, but I admired him, his ideals, what he accomplished, what he believed in. It was someone to look up at and say, that's pretty cool. And that was sort of the first launch off.
And so you had a job. I won't say it's a good job. Maybe it was. It's up to you. But you had a job. But then something about it, you're like, I'm gonna start something on the side.
Well, yeah. We all strive, right? We're all like, what's next? What's next? I started what's next by working at HCA at nights on the phone, calling residents, trying to get them to come move to Nashville. Right, we did it in the basement of their headquarters over, where the train at Centennial Park, and I was always looking for something else. And finally, a client. I was a TV rep at Channel 5, and one of my clients needed help in a different market, and I was just trying to help. And then trying to help turned into something to bill them for, and then something to bill them for turned into he referred me to someone. And I'm not saying go do this. We always allowed freelancing in our companies because, I could not. But I should have done it with the permission of my team and not behind their back. And that's what got me. I deserve to get fired, but that's what got me fired.
And when you mentioned earlier, but when you got fired, you were like, well, this is all I've got. I have to go all in on this.
I've got to go all in. There was, what was happening is the consulting business, as we'll call it, was gaining momentum. And I had in my head, I got to choose one or the other. I got to decide a corporate path where, I was the number one salesperson there. And, next I was going to be, the sales manager, who knew I could be a general, like there's a whole corporate path through that, or this entrepreneurial path. And the truth is I couldn't decide. And so the longer I waited, the worse situation I put myself in, right? And so they made the choice for me. I respect them for that. They did the right thing, and it was the best thing ever happened to me.
And you start that, what was a side hustle, then becomes your main hustle. That's right. And how was that? Was that easy, scary, fun, better than you thought, worse than you thought?
It was everything. It's hard to imagine. When I say me and my wife had to rub 2 nickels together to try to get a dime, that's what it felt like all the time. Like when we, at the end of the month, if there was anything left over, we felt victorious. And we just worked and we worked and we worked. And when it took at least a year to, start hiring some part-time help. And for, 3 or 4 years, I was a solopreneur, which means that all I did was the best work I could do for my clients, and I would hire people to do things I didn't want to do. But I was still the number one guy. You come to me for the consult. I'll do the strategy. I'll do the consulting. I'm going to put together a plan. If I need to fly to Albuquerque and meet with my client, it's me doing it. I was the solopreneur, and I was surrounding myself with people that would give me more time to be the best consultant I could be. It was 6, 7, 8 years into this when I realized that model is great if you want to get to a certain spot in your life, but it's impossible to grow a business as a solopreneur. That I had to not hire people to do what I didn't do well or didn't want to do. I had to hire people to do the things I loved doing and was great at, and they had to be better than me. And once I made that transition, once I was able to hire people better than me to do the job I took pride in, then we started to grow beyond me, per se. And that's when, the stair step of growth, it was, it's never, oh, you started here and you ended here, and look at this smooth path. And it's rare. It wasn't that for me. Very jagged, lots of lessons learned, lots of problems encountered, but that was the path. And when amazing, the more talent we hired and the longer their tenure became, the more successful we were. It's like a magic formula.
And as you saw that happening, as you were experiencing that, was there a moment where you thought, man, this could get really big, I could sell this for a lot of money and do it again or do something else? I mean, were you starting to think about doing this more than once?
We recognize, if you look at all the entrepreneurial businesses out there that are all the categories, an ad agency is one of the toughest to scale, grow, and sell. It's one of the toughest to do because it's always going to have an air about its, who are the creative people, who's running the show. It is a difficult business to scale and sell. But one of the reasons we started the call center is it's one of the best categories to scale and sell. And so what I tried to do was learn about all the things that kept an agency from scaling and selling and put that energy into growing a call center that could scale and sell. And so we started with 4 clients in the call center. And we had to be there 24/7, 365. And we thought when we get to 50, we'll be profitable. We'll cross over that chasm of profitability. Well, that number turned out to be 125. So you're always wrong. Whatever you think it is, double it. You're always wrong. But once we got to 125, we realized the only path is forward. And so because we specialized, and this is in both businesses, but because we specialized, we could charge more money per activity than almost any other business. We found that tenure became the key to that. And we would use tenure to explain our pricing. When someone would say, you charge more than anyone in the industry, I'd say proudly, yes, we do. And our tenure is higher than anyone in the agency. And tell me, who do you want handling your calls, your commercials, your strategy? Someone who is 3 months into the business or someone who's been here for 5.5 years. And so we use tenure as a way to quantify our niche, charge a very high price. And the reason we were able to sell the call center for such a great number is that we had the highest margins that our buyer had ever seen. We were a small business. We were like $8 million. But our margin was unbelievable because of how we charged our clients to answer their phones.
And let's talk a little bit more about specialization, because I think entrepreneurs, we've got various people in the room, various stages from idea to scale. The notion of specialization can sometimes be scary. I'm only going to focus on this market. It's only so big. But it sounds like that's where you found the success in the personal injury attorney niche.
You're great at personal injury. Now you can go after bankruptcy. No. You're great at personal injury. Now you can go after family law. No. You take calls for this segment. Why not move over? No. And it's hard to say no. The more I said it, the easier it became. First time, maybe. Right? Maybe. Let's think about that. Let's walk there. But every time I said no, it got easier to say no. Then I started wearing it like another badge. Like, we always say no to anything that's going to take us off our game. And the more times we said no, and the more we focused on growing our talent internally and keeping our talent extremely happy, and we did crazy stuff to keep our team happy. The more we did, the longer they stayed, the more we could charge, the easier I slept. It's a continual rhythm. But I want to stress, for 7 to 10 years, I was not a very good business person. I was not a very good boss. Like, if you brought all the people that worked for us in the first 7 to 10 years and said, rate him as a boss, it's a very low number. It's scary. Like, I still have regrets from how, the things I thought, the way. And what happens is you only bring with you the experiences you've had. And so however you were treated in your first 2 or 3 jobs or your first third of life, that's how you are likely to treat people until you're enlightened, or that's what I did. And so I just, this is how a boss reacts. This is what a boss says. This is how you manage people. And until I was enlightened, and I'd like to get into how that enlightenment came to be, I was just a mean boss, like just an asshole, pretty much. Sorry. And to some extent I still am, but what I learned was when it came to the team, how I treated the team was how they treated our clients. And once I realized that, the whole thing flipped.
So tell us about the Enlightenment piece.
So the books we read and the people we meet, right? The only difference between you today and you in 10 years or 5 years, you pick the time frame, are the books you read and the people you meet. That changes how you think, how you perceive the world, how you look at other people, it broadens your experiences. And so I joined EO, Entrepreneur Organization, when I was barely able to qualify. But the people I met and the books I read after joining, and then the conversations I was able to have about the books I read, turned me from one kind of an entrepreneur into one that had a much better chance of success. For your charting, obviously. So I can't employ, and when I say read, that means listen, that means books, that means podcasts, that means anyone that you perceive and respect as someone who's been successful. That's how I learned. I learned from Jack Daly and John DeJulius and Vern Harnish and Jim Collins and Lencioni, right? And the more I read, the more it started to come together. And then a network of peers going through what you're going through allows you to put the puzzle. It's almost like REM sleep. Like you can think about stuff, and your brain, in my mind, needs to rewire at night, needs to reset, like defrag. Dell computers used to have a defrag button, and they would show you a visualization of it defragging. And so I believe talking to peers is like defrag. It helps you place the information that you've absorbed into the right spot when you need it. And so EO was that network for me, right? That ability to hear others' thoughts and to be heard, and to reorganize all the things I'd learned that week, that month, that quarter, that year. And that helped me get from point A to point C.
So we got two more questions, and then I want to open it up for whatever you guys want to ask Arnie. So when it came to the chance to sell the businesses, as well as they were going, as much as you were learning, as well as you were treating your people, why did you say yes and decide to add that to your journey?
As anyone, any business broker, anyone that sold a business will tell you, is that it is its best. You'll get the best price when you least want to sell. Right? When the business is going great without your input and with few headaches, with a strong balance sheet, with recurring revenue, which if whatever business you're in, recurring revenue is the key to happiness. Then, and when you have the least need to sell it is when it's worth the most. When you're in a panic and you've just lost 6 of your key customers and 4 of your key employees and you're underwater at the bank, I mean, you really want out because your family's screaming at you, it's not worth anything. And so the key to selling a business is running it like you'll never sell the business. And that once we ran it with the mindset of never selling, that it has to always work, then it not easy, but it became much more probable.
You felt good about that decision?
After 25 years of rubbing two nickels together early and all the crazy that happens in any business, right? It's constant and constant. It was time for me. It was time for me. Now, luck is a huge part of business success. Effort is big. Ideas are okay. Luck is an amazing part of success. And one of the things that fueled our exit was a real estate play. As we grew as a company, we were in Cumming Station. Cumming Station was an amazing place 25, 30 years ago where rent was $10 a square foot and everyone in there was running some sort of startup business. It was kind of like the EC of its day, right? With no management. It was just chaos. More like this, yeah. So anyway, so we grew and grew and kept moving and kept expanding. We would, when someone next to you went out of business, you're like, A, I get all their equipment. B, I can take over their space, and I don't have to move everybody. I can take down a wall and move over. So it was like Survivor, right, out up there. But as we grew and grew, we finally at the Cumming Station, Zach Liff was the owner manager, and we had to move. And we looked all over Nashville for places, and we ended up moving right across the street to a 30,000 square foot building, which had only half the parking we needed. And so we had to buy another third of an acre down the street for additional parking. And at the time, we felt we were getting just hoodwinked into a deal we had to have because the price was so high. And then we closed the deal. We begrudgingly got in there, and we got happy there. And then they built the Music City Center 2 blocks away. It was like, wow. That was the luck part. And so the real estate had become so valuable, and the businesses had hit their peak. And so we sold both businesses to separate buyers and the real estate all in 3 transactions that occurred over 18 months. So it was just time. Yeah. It was just time. It was just the world conspired to say it's time.
And so tell us a little bit more about EO, and then we'll open it up for questions. But Entrepreneurs Organization, international group, you're very involved in that. It was instrumental for you. So folks who are in here maybe haven't heard of it or think that may be an asset to them, tell us what that looks like here in Nashville.
I owe so much of my success to the relationships and the experiences that EO gave. EO is an entrepreneur organization. It was started by Vern Harnish and Michael Dell, as a matter of fact, so many years ago, as a way for entrepreneurs to share and learn from each other. I joined in 2004. There were about 60 members at the time. Joe Friedman, if he hasn't been in this chair, needs to be, literally hollered at me from down the hallway at Cumming Station and said, "You, Arnie, you're over $1 million. You should join EO." I said, "Okay, Joe, I'll join EO." And then he turned around and walked off. EO was about 60. Now EO Nashville is 350 members of entrepreneurs in the entire Middle Tennessee district. And I can't say much about the network, the conversations, and then the expansion of the 17, 18,000 members globally. And when I say globally, I mean every country on the globe has entrepreneurs just like you trying to make a go in their world, in their space, with their family and their community. So amazing group of people that help each other out all the time.
Yeah, and we're very friendly. Obviously, the EC, EO, a lot of times people confuse us. That's totally fine, but we love it. The EO office is out of here as well, so Samira Lowe runs that. If you guys have questions, you can ask Arnie about that today. But yeah, once you cross that $1 million threshold, there's a lot of personal achievement that comes with that, of course, but then there's also a lot of kind of new problems and ideas and opportunities, and so having that peer group has been valuable.
And I'll, as you grow your business, less and less people in your current circle understand your problems, right? And your team doesn't want to hear about your problems. Your family really doesn't want to hear about your problems. And your friends who maybe have just they're in a different place in their life don't understand your problems. Just like I didn't understand the problems of my employers when I was working for them, right? Different perspective. So just EO becomes a place where your problems are understood, you're heard, and while we all can learn from our own mistakes, it's so much more valuable to learn from others. It's just, it pays bigger dividends.
What questions do you guys have for Arnie?
Yeah. Do you have any mentors along the way, and kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, the answer is that there's a long list of people in my life that I thank for any gram of success. When I first moved to town, Jerry McCoyne, who was my fraternity little brother's father, took me downtown and introduced me to Pauletta Whitworth, who was one of the first female vice presidents in any bank in Nashville. He introduced me to Ralph Brown, who was an insurance agent. Ralph Brown walked me across the street, like 30 minutes later, introduced me to Pauletta Whitworth. Pauletta Whitworth walked me upstairs and introduced me to Danny McClendon, who was the president of First American Bank, who said, "I'm going to offer you a job." And I thought, what a town. What a great town. I like it here in Nashville. And those people started a long list of people who were people I constantly had coffee with or lunch with or just stopped by to see, that just sort of helped keep the stars aligned. Right, and the best mentors never tell you what to do. They share an experience about how they've experienced life, and let you draw from that based on where you are. And so, my cautious tale about mentors is you're looking for folks with wisdom and not answers. Answers can be dangerous. It's another thing we learn in EO that I don't need to tell you. You'll figure out what to do if you have the right framework to do it. And so there's a long list after that. I actually, small self-plug, wrote a book in 2017 and made a list of everyone I could thank for my success, and it's a long list.
It's a good book.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to ask, too. Did you have any books that you want to recommend?
Well,
Tell us more about some books.
yeah, books. By the way, I have a small company now, SaaS company, called Better Book Club. And it's not what you think. Like, so many book clubs are. I may be talking to you. I'm going to offend some of you here. You're the boss. You read a book. You loved it. So you bought 5, 10, or 20 copies, and you passed them out. And you said, "Y'all read this book. We're going to talk about it in a month."
That's what I do. Sorry, Mira. I give Mira like a book a week.
And your team, while appreciative that you care about them and want them to learn, it's not their topic. It's not their time. There's something else going on. So what we did at CJ and at Legal Intake is we said, I'm not going to tell you what to read. You read whatever you want to read, and I'm going to reward you for that. We pay $100 per quarter for you to read books. Any book you want. Because the habit of reading is way more important than any title. If you enjoy reading, you will get to the right titles eventually, and you will change your life, your family's life, and oh, by the way, the company's life, which is what happened to us. So Better Book Club is a rewards program that companies take. They reward their team for reading books, and it's again, I measure a lot of things in tenure. Better book clubs stick around a long time. Back to your question. So when you say what book to recommend, my question is, what do you want to learn, right? And so based on what you want to learn, there's a list of books, sometimes one or two in my head, that you need to read. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to read Jim Collins' Good to Great, right? You need to read the five dysfunctions, death by meeting, death by meeting, because meetings will drown your business. And death by meeting will help you understand how to run correct meetings. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to read, what's the third? And there's so many, there's like hundreds of how-to books you can read. But anything by Lencioni will help you see your business differently. And so I've got at worthdoingwrong.com, there is a place to say recommended reads, and it says if you want to learn marketing, read this. If you want to be an entrepreneur, read this. If you want to learn about managing culture, read this. And so there's like 3 to 5 books in every category. Is there something else you want to learn that I can push you towards? There's so many. And whatever, like I want to read all these books, just start. I've read 304 books since college that I chose to read. 304. Now, there's plenty of people that have read more, and trust me, your teams have read a lot less. Start somewhere and start building that library of knowledge for yourself, and then give that gift to your team in any way that makes sense to you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious what your habit is to find time to read in a, driven, I got to get all these things done.
Yeah.
Where do you carve out the time?
Yeah, we all, we need time for family and for exercise and for business and for our own spiritual needs, and we need all this time, and so it's all about habits. It's, Atomic Habits, by the way, great book, #1 bestseller. It is about finding a rhythm, and for me, I listen to books. I listen to books way more effectively than I read. When I read, I tend to fall asleep, but when I listen on the drive somewhere, when I listen during my warm-up to a workout, when I listen on a walk in the afternoon, then my body is active, but my mind can focus. And so that, just because that works for me doesn't mean it'll work for you, but there is a rhythm that works for you. Some people read 30 minutes every morning, first thing they do when they wake up. Some people have a ritual that they'll just read till they fall asleep at night. Some people, have a perfect commute either to work or to see family, and it makes sense. 1 book a quarter is world-class for most of your teams. As an entrepreneur, I would love to see you try to do 1 book a month, but 10 a year is great, 8 a year is great, 4 a year is great, but the rhythm of it is important.
You mentioned that you would have probably been better served asking permission rather than begging forgiveness when you were fired. How might you have framed that conversation? You had to go back and do that all over again.
Well, I think like a lot of things in life, we put off hard decisions. And I think the first conversation should have been with myself. What do I want? But here's the, I hate throwing in personal curveballs. So my boss at the time had previously been my coworker, and we had become very good friends. But she became my boss. She also introduced me to my current wife. And she's the one that had to go in the office and tell the general manager that there's no way Arnie's doing this, and then find out that I was. And then she's the one that had to fire me. We are still great friends. In fact, right before I left CJ, we hired her to play a key role in the agency, and she's still there. But I hurt her in a deep way, and that should have never happened. And that would have never happened if I'd have had the courage to have the conversation with myself and then have the courage to go to them and say, here's where I am. I know this is going to force some decisions. What are our options? And so, did it work out? Yes. Did I hurt some people? Yes.
You said you spent some time working for your dad's lumber business. Was there ever a point in time where you thought to take over the family business, and is it still here today?
No. The short answer is not here today. Very small town, 5,000 total people. Graduated high school in 1985. in this town in Arkansas, the town was 50-50 black and white. I was a brown kid in a black and white community. The school was still basically segregated. Pep rallies, blacks on one side, whites on the other. In my senior picture, there's 104 of us, and all of the black students are on one side and all the white students are on the other, and I'm in the middle. This is a very small town that had very small minds, and there was no way I was staying in that town. So I went from Brinkley, Arkansas, to Ole Miss, which is not a progressive place, and then finally to Nashville. In Nashville, in 1989, when I moved here, I got 2 questions from everybody. Where'd you go to high school? Who's your daddy? Those are the top 2 questions. Today, I believe the top 2 questions are where you're from and what are you getting done. Like, it's a different mindset than it was 30 years ago. And so just be appreciative that Nashville has come this far. I probably am well beyond your question, but the small town experience, you can't trade your growing up experience, but that's very difficult to look back at that and think that was normal.
What was well, Arnie, thanks for coming today. I really appreciate you sharing time with us. What was the Enlightenment period's fascinating. I imagine that the pre-Enlightenment period, just to use your terminology, I imagine you didn't understand you had a blind spot there. So what was the catalyst to this period? Like, why convince yourself to make that change?
Blind spot's a great word. None of us can see our blind spots. Another reason to have a group of people you can talk to. In my current EO forum, there's 8 of us, and all of us know each other's blind spots, but none of us know our own blind spots. And so part of that is to help guide the mirror towards us. So very important to have that group. I would describe the first 5 to 7 years of my business of pushing a rock uphill. Through brute force, I was able to move a rock uphill. But if I relaxed for a moment, that rock starts tumbling down. And it was out of pure exhaustion. I like to say survival. If you survive business long enough, you will make one of 2 choices. You will shrink your business so that you can survive it, or you will grow your business so you can survive it. Those are your only 2 choices, because the weight of that rock is too big to bear. It's too big on you. It's too big on your family. It'll corrode your arteries. It'll mush your brain. So you have 2 choices. Some people figure it out really quickly. Some people it takes a while. But that's about when I figured it out, is that I have to make a choice here, and I chose to trust in talent, which I was only able to do because I had good people telling me I could, and because books showed me a path to do it. Who is the other book? WHO. It's a short version of top grading. Top grading is this thick. Who is this thick? And Who taught me how to hire better than any other book I've read, and I highly, highly recommend it. That's the 3rd entrepreneur book.
Let's go you and then Dennis, and we'll wrap up.
What's the most surprising thing you experienced when you shifted your own views on culture and started to change things?
Well, I'll answer it this way, is that you will make bad hires. There's no matter how good you are, you read 3 versions of Who, you go to 20 seminars, you hire the best company, you will make bad hires. And so the biggest surprise is how ludicrous people are when you make the bad hire. Like how crazy they can take your organization in a bad way. 2 of my biggest regrets in business were 2 of the hires I made, one of which I refer to as Voldemort, because I will not say her name. And the other was just we hired an expert, right? And the expert was going to take the business and help us grow it. And it was like that Jimmy Dean commercial where they start putting fillers and bad stuff in the meat. So they just the experts can kill your passionate business. And so I kind of wiggled around that question, but that's my biggest surprise, was how bad a bad hire can take your company quickly and wow, that's a big deal. And the opposite of that is how when a quality team member, my COO, Chris Stovall, who is now out working for the ring company. What is it? They make the rubber rings in Spring Hill, one of the biggest businesses in the damn Middleton. It's unbelievable. But Chris Stovall changed as being a great COO, someone that could harness my CEO crazies and put them into place. He is one of the along with many other great people, one of the primary reasons we were able to find success in the business. Some of us are natural idea people. Some of us are natural operations people. Some people see finance like it's magical. Very few of us are all those things. And so the bigger you get, when I committed to growth, one of the great things that came from that is that by having two distinct companies that employed about 225 people in one building, is that we could afford a really good finance person, a really good COO, and a really good technology officer. And so those people made me better. And so just like I'm shocked at how fast a bad hire can pull you down, I'm also quite impressed with how good people can pull you up. And so having those good people that you believe in, that you truly believe in, trust, and that appreciate the opportunity, massive difference. Now, when you're small and it's you and your partner, whether in life or professionally, and two small hires, you got to rub those nickels together. You have to do it. You have to find that place that's scalable before you just start obviously hiring a bunch of people to do the work. But once you get there, it's a race for talent, and best talent wins.
So thinking back to when you first got started on your own, and it's kind of okay, I'm here, now what? Are there any tips and techniques you would have for someone just starting out to kind of grow your own self-image?
Self-image, yeah. Here's what I did. I'm maniacally focused on my clients. When there was one client, when I started, there were three, and those three got me 6. Right? They got me 3 more. Those 6 got me 12. But I didn't do any marketing. My marketing was to make sure my client was happy, and they told other people. And in the last 5 years of my business, firms would call me and they would say, "Oh, we're in Albany, New York, and we've heard some good things about you, and we'd like you to come pay us a visit and see if you can help us." And my response was, "Love that you tell me who told you that. I understand. Here's how it works. If you'd like us to take a look at you, you need to come to Nashville. And you need to spend a day with us in our office. And at the end of that day, if you're impressed and we believe we can help you, we will do business. But if you don't like us, or if we don't think you have the mindset to move forward, then we're not going to do business." So that came from those early days of maniacally focusing on our clients and learning how we can help them. And I don't know if we're late or not, but I'm going to tell you one more story. J. Marshall Hughes and Coleman, y'all, am I still there? There you go. I keep hitting something. Hughes and Coleman was one of our first clients here in Nashville. J. Marshall Hughes, I was still working at Channel 5, and he had me in his office in the middle of the day in a meeting, and the meeting had nothing to do with marketing. And I'm sitting there with like 4 of his leadership team, and they're talking about something operational, and I'm starting to sweat and nervous because I know I'm supposed to be back at the office. And I say, "Marshall, what am I doing here?" And he said, "Son, the more you know about my business, the more you can help me." And that was like, bam. And that's what I did. I just dove into their business, and I've determined that I was going to be the person that helped them grow their business. And marketing just happens to be a way to do it. And I took that attitude into every client. And the return gift was not just financial, but it was the referral and lifelong friendships. Lifelong friendships where we grew their brand into something they never believed possible, and we're able to grow the agency into something that we never believed possible. And by the way, The agency is still up and running, fully functional. They're in LNC Tower. The new owners the buyers were our biggest client, and they became our biggest client by following our culture, and they have taken that culture and they've kept it at CJ. And CJ is 70% of the team is still there, 70% of the clients are still there, and they're doing great. Legal Intake was bought by Stericycle, a giant multi-billion-dollar world-based company. They looked at what we were doing culturally. They told me point blank they couldn't do 90% of it. That company's since been sold 2 more times, right? And I don't know anyone there anymore. So for us, culture gave us the ability to have the talent to keep the clients happy, and it all started by that maniacal focus. And so that long answer is, you make your current clients happy, recurring revenue. You make your current clients happy, they will get you more business.
Round of applause for Arnie. Thanks for joining us, man. A couple other things real quick, just to put on your calendar. You can find all these at ec.co/events, but we do something here at least every Thursday, if not more often. So in this room next Thursday, we've got a lunch and learn free lunch. We're talking about creative marketing ideas for startups. So we're not talking about social media. We're not talking about buying ads and pay-per-click or anything like that, but we've got 3 experts who are going to share ways that you can creatively market your startup in new ways. Every third Thursday is our happy hour. Every fourth Thursday is a free co-working day. So if you're not currently a co-working member, come check that out, see if that is for you. And then our next serial event is going to be here on May 2nd. 2 QR codes for you. On the left, sign up for our newsletter that goes out every other week. And then on the right, we want to hear about what you thought about today's event. So a very quick survey there. Thank you all. Feel free to hang out. Arnie's going to stay for a little bit, answer some questions that you didn't get to ask out loud. We've still got cereal and coffee. But again, thanks you all for being here. Appreciate it.